you guys have probably heard of the term red pilling, and it's becoming more and more common today. You've even seen guys like Elon Musk use it on Twitter at some point. But
What does
there's
it mean to you? So that for the folks that maybe haven't heard it, can you define that for us to the best of your ability?
it's unplugging from society's lies. Culture, society, religion, education, marketing, Hollywood. They sell you a bill of sales that's simply not true. Like at some point, guys come to the realization that what they were told, and I'll use one simple example. So something like marriage, for example, any guy that's been through the divorce machine understands that women aren't necessarily sugar and spice and all things nice, and that if you take your vows and promise to be together forever with one another in sickness and health, and rich or poor and all that sort of stuff, at some point guys, or 50% of the guys, will go through the divorce grinder and they'll learn, well, that's not entirely true, and women do care about your success, and if you stop chasing excellence, then she might stop looking at you as the apple of her eye, sort of thing. So that's what a red pilling moment is, and I think
And
I
it's from
had
the
three
Matrix,
of them.
right? It was like a
Yeah,
Matrix.
it's
Yeah,
yeah, it's like one of those things that like the
yeah.
underground community sort of pulled from the Matrix, and they made it their own lingo, like red pill, blue pill, sort of thing. And I think there was three events that sort of red pilled me that led up to the book, The Unplugged Alpha. And the first one was me going through my own divorce roughly 3 years after my marriage. Then it was a lobbying effort that I dealt with in Ontario here in Canada, because there was legislation that credit card companies and banks pushed through to essentially eliminate the debt negotiation industry. And then the third thing was, after I got divorced, I got tied up with a woman that was also divorced with a couple kids in towed. And a lot of the things that I thought, my entire life, just kept getting beaten down. It's like, okay, she's violated that, she's betrayed me here and there, sort of thing. It's like one thing after another. You have to come to the realization and stop pointing the finger at other people and blame yourself for the results that you get. And the book itself is really just a collection of some life experiences that I went through, where I made my wounds my work.
So what mistakes were you making? Because it sounds like, if I'm
Mhm.
hearing you correctly, you attracted, and I don't want to misstate here, but it sounded like you said you attracted two of the wrong partners, right? Is that correct? Or one?
Yeah, so that's actually a very good place to start. So definitely chose the wrong wife.
Yeah.
Okay. Not a bad woman, just not a good woman for me.
And
Not
you're
a good
owning
fit for me.
that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Same thing with the lady that I dated after I got divorced.
Okay. I just want to
And
make sure it wasn't
that
your
was on
current
me.
wife, and I was, yeah, got it.
No, no,
Okay,
no,
perfect.
no, no,
Yeah.
no. Like guys make incredibly bad choices when it comes to relationships, and that's one of the things my book deals with a lot, and it helps sort of get guys' heads squared away properly. It's one of the reasons why a lot of my coaching comes from some very high net worth individuals that have either dealt with problem women in their lives. They're very successful in business. Like, one of the things I've noticed about entrepreneurs is you can be a weapon in your business, build something that's phenomenal, generate huge amounts of revenue, hire lots of people, solve big problems in the world, but suck in their personal life, like allow
Mhm.
an absolute disaster to run them, right? So these are the sorts of things that I help guys with, getting their heads squared away with.
I think it's also interesting because you hear a lot about, there's like the gender gap and this male dominance over society and all
Mhm.
these things, and I've heard some recent discussions on this, where the wealth, regardless of male or female, is probably concentrated to the very top,
Mhm.
and a lot of the things that guys are going through every day, like we have a property management company, right?
Mhm.
And these guys are out there grinding and doing some very challenging work throughout the day. So it's interesting to see how this thing is morphed into, okay, there's probably some bad actors out there that are doing some negative things, but also a lot of guys are getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning, going out, doing the shit work that no one else wants to do, and we're saying that guy is privileged. Meanwhile, he's out there humping it, and the work, I'm saying, like, he's out there humping the job to
Mhm.
provide for his family and do the right thing. And I just don't see how that is living this life of privilege and dominance. It's almost, a life of service to me. And that's the thing where I think we're getting crossed up these days.
Yeah, there was a male feminist, his name's Dr. Warren Farrell, that I think lobbied for close to 15 to 20 years for women's rights. Was the only male member elected to a board of a feminist organization. And I think he realized, if I'm not mistaken, about halfway into his career, that men aren't actually the privileged sex. It's women that are privileged and women that are protected. And it's kind of been all that way,
And I'm
throughout
good with
history.
that as a man. And that's
Absolutely.
probably sexist to say. Like, I don't know
No, it's
what's
not.
okay,
It's
but
not.
like,
I want to
like,
be the man. Like I want
yeah,
to protect, provide, but I also want to preside too. The problem in today's world is guys still have responsibility to family and their wife, but they don't have any authority. And when you're in a position where you have responsibility without any authority, then that's a position of slavery.
wow. That's very well articulated.
Yeah. And
Fantastic.
how we
That's really,
got there
yeah.
is, just something that took several decades of, I think, society softening, men becoming weaker, testosterone levels lowering, women being sold this bill of goods by toxic feminism, where they've been told that, you don't need no man, or you need a man like a fish needs a bicycle sort of thing. And they've been told to put off having families, getting married, finding a top shelf sort of virtuous guy, and, contributing to family and society in that way in their 20s. And now you have a very, very large contingent of women in their late 30s or even 40s. You see them out there on dating sites where they're looking for their equal, where they've got their 3 or 4 degrees, they're framed in mahogany on their wall, they make great money, well into 6 figures, and they just can't find a guy that wants to be with them. But what they've done is they basically turned themselves into men. They went and looked at what they thought was attractive, and because toxic feminism sold them that lie, that you have to go and do all these things, then they come to the realization at some point where they hit this wall and they're like, wow, guys don't want me, or I'm having a hard time finding a guy that I can see as
But
my
look at the
equal.
numbers. I've also seen statistics that say that the guys over 30 who are not married, that are, over 5'10" or 5'11" or something like that,
Mm.
it's like maybe a quarter of 1% or something. You're literally trying to find something that doesn't exist at that point in your life. So
Yeah, that's
it's
one of the
nearly
problems, is they
impossible.
have this overly entitled sense of worth, where they think that there's this term that was coined. I remember I was at this dinner party once about 10 or 15 years ago. I was single at the time, and one of the guy's wives, said to me, like, why are you single, Rich? Like, you got the 6 6s. And I said to her, well, what's that? I'd never heard of that.
Wait, you said 6 6s?
6 6s, yeah.
Oh, I can't
And
wait for this. I have no
oh
idea what's
yeah.
coming.
Okay, so the 6 6s, as the gals portrayed, and I think these women, they were probably early 40s at the time. The typical gals, with the wine glasses and their hair and makeup all done, with a couple of guys sitting around in the corner, and the guys are going on about happy wife, happy life sort of thing. And the 6 6s were purportedly 6 feet tall, 600 horsepower cars, 600 horsepower cars, 6-figure income, 6-pack abs, 6 inches in the pants. And I think the last one was 6 months out of a relationship. Right. So it's
That
like,
last one's
okay.
hard to find.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, here's the thing. Like, even if you use the 6 foot tall metric, and we know that women are looking for taller guys. I mean, like, even if, you look at dating apps, they almost always explicitly state looking for a tall guy, or must be over 6 foot. In some cases, even 6'2". If you Google the stats, the amount of men in North America that are over 6'2" is less than, I think, 4%. The amount of men that are over 6 foot, I think, is less than something like 15%. The average height for a guy today is about 5'8", 5'9". So when the vast majority of the female population sets that very high standard, and then you set aside the other 5 6s, which seem to be very important to them as well, you start running into problems where there's all these single ladies today, right? So there's a lot of very complex issues sort of intermingling and colliding in the sexual marketplace today when it comes to relationships and love. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.